Void Thrashing is the map where we have to destroy 10 Void Thrashers before they destroy Sergeant Hammer's completely useless fortress. Each set we destroy reveals the next, unless we take too long and they spawn anyway. All enemies are immune to either you or your ally. They also gain a 100 health shield when they first take damage. Hybrids reduce damage when they have friends nearby.
Vorazun, where do we have him?
Okay, so Vorazun is the best option. She just is the best option. P2 Vorazun is actually good here because here's the deal. Yes, you have reduced damage output. Who cares? You can stun everything, including hybrid, with your zealots and your dark archons. You can confuse enemies, which will make sure that they will actually be like confused enemies with the wrong polarity will hit each other and hurt each other. You have time stop. You have black hole. You can cloak your ally with dark pylon. You can kidnap your ally with dark pylon. It is a separate cooldown per dark pylon, so you can kidnap your ally 4 times in a single minute if you have to, in order to force them to actually solve all the problems around the map. You have a huge amount of crowd control. You have a huge amount of kidnapping power. You have very good emergency crowd control if you're top bar. Use Vorazun if you want to have the easiest time possible. Vorazun is the best option here. If there's anyone who goes in S tier anyways, it is Vorazun, because you can literally drag your ally around and make them kill all their stuff. If your ally just makes an army and goes AFK, Vorazun can technically do it by yourself.
Letter.
S tier Vorazun.
I disagree. I have Vorazun in B tier. The crowd
What
control
the heck?
the crowd control is great and all, but Vorazun takes a lot of teching to get to where she needs to be. As you mentioned, Void Thrashing is a very short map, and by 10 minutes, as you said, the map is 2/3 done. 10 minutes is right about when I have a fightable army as Vorazun, and now you're saying that I should use the second prestige as Vorazun. Some armies even weaker. So yes, you have crowd control, but how far does that really go if you're on a map like Void Thrashing, where the map goes fast and you don't have a lot of time to tech up? She's not bad. I'm not saying she's bad, but I don't think she's S tier just because you need the time to power up. You
take until 10 minutes to have a fightable army as Vorazun? What, do you take until 10 minutes to figure out how to build a second outlaw with Tychus? What? Oh my goodness.
You don't. Wow.
You make Zealot Dark Archon.
You don't. It's not even comparable, man. You don't.
Yeah, Tychus is a little bit extreme.
Vorazun's army, especially the second prestige, needs a lot of time to power because you need to tech up all the way to Dark Shrine and then research mind control and the Argus crystal or the something crystal. I forgot what it was called, but it's you need to research two.
I will note mind control
for
kind of not that useful here. You want Dark Archons for confusion. You don't even need mind control. Technically, you don't need the energy upgrade. The moment your Dark Shrine finishes, your army is 100% online, which, by the way, is around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Before that, the first wave, you have Shadow Guard. Shadow Guard is great.
But reduce
it will
damage.
solve all of your problems.
And you don't have the respawning Shadow Guard with time stop.
Shadow Guard, with less damage, will still kill everything almost instantly. It is still Shadow Guard at 3 minutes. The first attack wave does not do anything against Shadow Guard. It doesn't have protection either, so it's not going to actually... The half that is your allies is not even going to stop your Shadow Guard. And if it's just being allowed to hit your buildings because your ally isn't doing anything for 3 minutes, then... well, you can black hole it, or depending on the composition, maybe it's few enough enemies you could literally void prison them with Shadow Guard in order to stall them forever. By the way, another thing, this still hasn't been arguably bug fixed. P2 Vorazun, the damage over time will damage Protoss shields on enemies that are not your polarity.
That's kind of funky. But still.
So you can damage enemy units that aren't even your polarity. And the Void Thrashers have shields! So you can technically damage Void Thrashers that aren't your polarity.
That's pretty cool. But you still won't destroy them. The objective is to destroy them, not damage them.
No, you still won't destroy them.
But anyway.
Well, you're helping your ally at least.
That's true. And that's why I have them in B, not S.
Your ally you can kidnap.
S is way too much of an overstretch for Vorazun. Because, again, you have a good point that they do have Vorazun's amazing crowd control, and she does have the ability to confuse enemies and make them attack each other. But that's still not enough damage, especially when the enemy has barrier and Hardened Will. That's not enough damage to destroy them, especially since you will activate barrier and everything.
Well, that
and you have reduced
barrier
damage
and everything, and then the barrier breaks because the barrier times out after a while, and you are just continuing to spam confusion. Quite literally, what you will do is you will make Zealot Archon as Vorazun. You will have a bunch of gateways. As soon as the Dark Shrine finishes, you will just warp in a wave of Dark Archons and also start the energy upgrade because you want the energy upgrade eventually anyways. And if you are fighting, if you are not fighting literally instantly, you just sit in a Dark Pylon until you are fighting. You get the increased energy regeneration. By 6 minutes at the absolute latest, you have easily got a strong enough army to carry you through like everything except the final base, and by the final base, you're going to be able to have warped in more Dark Archons, more Zealots, and you still have Black Hole and Time Stop, and Shadow Guard if you really need it.
I really don't know. It's just a lot of teching up. It's just a lot of upgrading. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of teching up the way that Stetman does a lot of teching up to get a hive. Stetman can make a hive by 4 minutes, why can't Vorazun make a Dark Shrine? It's literally just following a tech string.
Stetman's buildings build faster.
Stetman's buildings do build faster, but he also has more steps in the chain. Technically, Vorazun can have her Dark Shrine up by like 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Let's actually count. For Stetboy, it's spawning pool, lair, infestation pit, hive. That's 4 things. For Vorazun, it's Gateway, Cybercore, Twilight Council, Dark. That's actually 4. That's also 4 things.
It is both 4 things. That's true,
but
actually.
you need.
I guess for some reason, I was counting the hatchery on Stetman, but you do start with a hatchery.
You do start with a hatchery. I was also about to count the pylon toward Vorazun, but that's kind of facetious because you always want to start with the dark pylon. So
exactly, and also you do kind of need a pylon before your first gateway for supply block reasons.
Yes. So. I mean, I did count it toward the tech tree because you drop the dark pylon. So it's basically
Vorazun and Stetman both have 4 steps. So it's the same number of steps. Yeah, it basically it is actually a very similar picture. Vorazun teching to Dark Shrine and Stetman teching to Hive.
But that's only the teching part.
Just sprint up the tech tree.
By the time your tech tree completes, Super Gary just basically means you're almost 100%. You're almost 100% powered. Vorazun's tech tree, by the time you finish it, that's the time when you begin building an army. You're not fully powered up.
You have Warp Gate. You literally have Warp Gate, though.
You still have to research Warp Gate, and then you warp in your army one by one. You still have
researching
to macro.
Warp Gate only takes 60 seconds to go up.
The thing is, it's still way easier to just get Super Gary out because Super Gary doesn't cost supply. And it's a hero unit that just requires a single upgrade, then you're fully powered up. No macro needed. It's just one upgrade and you're done.
Well, anyways, if your goal is to carry an ally, Vorazun is by far the best option. It's not close. But if you are unable to not be supply blocked, I guess, since that's our strongest argument, is you have to build pylons, so you have supply to build your army.
And remember to follow the build order because it's an underrated difficulty among non 1v1 players. I would say Gold League and below. Following a build order, not build order, but remembering to build things. Remember to build the next building. Sometimes even remember to build the second pylon. Is a failure point for a lot of players below Platinum League.
Fair, but the same failure point comes up for Stetman where you don't have your hive by the time Gary spawns, so you end up with Gary for the first reasonably long time. As
someone from that skill level, I would say that the failure point is less pronounced for Stetboy because since the buildings finish faster, your attention span doesn't have to be stretched that long. And you can
more importantly, when you forget to build your Stetman building, you get to recover faster because they build faster because of the mastery. This is true.
That's true. But anyway, yes. So I'm not saying Vorazun is bad by any means. I'm just saying that there's just a lot more failure points for Vorazun than there is for Stetboy.
Anyways, make Zealot Dark Archon. Carry your ally.
I'm willing
If you're
to
al- if you
compromise
are
to
having
A
it-
tier.
Alright.
I could put
If
it
you
A
are-
tier.
Basically, Vorazun is the top recommended if the problem is that you are having trouble with random Q allies and not that you don't know how to pull your own weight.
Yes. Anyway, Vorazun A tier. All right. You want the second prestige?
Yes, I would say you want second prestige.
All right, second prestige it is. Because what I normally do for
Vorazun is
Vorazun
easier
here-
than Abathur, easier than Mengsk, arguably easier than Elrond. Well, no, probably not easier than Elrond, but he's easier. She's a lot easier than Abathur or Mengsk.
What I normally do for Vorazun on Void Thrashing just I hit time stop and then right click the Thrashers, but I understand it's not doable for Polarity because the Thrashers themselves have Polarity. So
It's
so
technically
my
doable
usual
if your ally is on top of actually right-clicking Thrashers as well. Although you still have to be
Yeah.
careful because Hardened Will gets in the way.
That's true. The hard will make the Thrasher thing just not viable. Does Confuse also affect hybrids? I think it does, right?
It does if you are P2. It does not if you are not P2. This is why we use P2 specifically so that Confuse affects
Confuse
hybrid.
affects hybrid. Do they still have Hardened Will with the second prestige?
Yes, they do still have Hardened Will, but they
So
also
that
are
means they
confused.
will-
And they are the other thing that it changes is the Zealot stun now affects hybrids as well. And so that means if you have a surround of Zealots on a hybrid, it is perma-stunned.
I guess.
It's just perma-stunned.
I guess that's true. Oh well. Anyway.
Also, the Zealots get a shield when they use that, so Vorazun Zealots are actually very tanky. Like, Vorazun Zealots are actually pretty good tanks. The only reason it normally doesn't come up is because anything Zealots can do by obliterating ground units by being tanky and stunning, you could have just pressed Shadow Fury and made all the ground units disappear magically.
And I would still argue, yes, the Centurions are tanky, but not the same level of tanky as Carax's Sentinels or Stetboy Zerglings. Yes, they're good options, but it's it's not.
They're not at the same level as Stetman's Zerglings. If Carax does have to use unit health mastery if he wants his Zealots to be tankier than Vorazun Zealots.
They have Revive,
I
though.
would say.
They have Revive.
They have Revive.
And they have...
the shield that Vorazun Zealots get when they activate their stun, first off, they activate a stun, and then they get a shield, which is more than their total health pool.
I don't know. I still like the Revive, but still. Also, Carax also has Repair Beam and Unity Barrier for counteracting burst damage.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess that's not the point. So, I was just thinking that if we were to use third prestige, would that still be A tier, or is this just not the same? This is just not the same.
I mean, it still would be. You still have Black Hole, you still have Time Stop, you still can kidnap your allies everywhere with Dark Pylon. The
But
one
I
that would
feel like-
actually threaten your ranking would be P1, since you no longer have Dark Pylon recall, so you can no longer kidnap your ally.
Yeah, but I feel like the entire reason that Vorazun is that good is because the Confuse can essentially counteract Polarity by making enemies attack each
Yes.
other. That's the whole
Yes.
reason. If you use third prestige,
You can still use Confuse if P3, it just won't affect hybrid, so that's why I would say P2 is better.
is the damage from the enemies from Polarity high enough to weigh more than just the sheer damage output of Shadow Guard and Dark Templar on third prestige? I guess so, right? Because of the Polarity attacking each other, you can deal damage.
Like, the
to
big
this
thing
other
is
your
just
own.
being able to stun lock hybrid. Being able to stun lock hybrid is going to be more useful than killing the enemies that are your Polarity slightly faster.
I'm gonna have
Because either way, killing the enemies that are your Polarity slightly faster is not going to be as useful as being able to stun lock enemies forever, so that you and your ally can both kill everything.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to test this on my own. I've played Dark Archon before, and what I usually do is mind control. So I haven't really tried just mass confusing enemies. So I don't really know
Yeah.
the interaction and how fighting works.
The brutal reality is that mind control is kind of a meme ever since they made it so that the upgrades don't apply to the units, because now if you mind control anything that isn't Protoss, it becomes useless. And if it is Protoss, well, now you have to get weapons, armor, and shields upgrades
And
for
pylons.
that unit for it to become useful. And it takes up
pylons.
supply either way. Yeah, no, mind control is actually kind of a terrible spell. It's
That's actually
only
true.
really any good. It's only any good for specifically the niche application of I need to deal with a sparse few air units that have like Avenger or something, making them really, really tanky. And then mind controlling it is useful as effectively an instant one-shot button.
Yes, it just removes.
But if
Avenger
it's
and
only
stuff.
when there's like sparse, really problematic, like big battle cruisers or something, and you just want an instant one-shot. If it killed the enemy instead of mind controlling it, if it was just instantly delete an enemy, that would arguably be an upgrade to mind control. Mass mind control armies are funny, but they're not good. It is a meme build for a reason.
Yeah, but mass carriers is Vorazun is pretty awesome though, and
Mass Carriers Wars is pretty funny.
mind control is pretty awesome in StarCraft 1.
It is pretty awesome in StarCraft 1.
I can
It's
make.
pretty awesome. It's like overpowered in the Legacy of the Void campaign.
I can
And then we
make
came to co-op,
Terran armies.
and we nerfed the heck out of it.
I can make Zerg armies.
You can. And they have separate supply from your Protoss
Exactly.
armies in StarCraft 1. Yeah, it's great.
Oh my god! I
And then,
remember.
we came to StarCraft 2, and we made it just as overpowered in the Legacy of the Void campaign, and then we got to co-op, and we nerfed the Dark Archon until mind control became a literal meme.
That's so sad. I remember back in the day in StarCraft 1, big game hunters, free for all, 8 players, me against 7 AIs, mind controlling a Berserk and a Terran, and just massing battle cruisers, carriers, and guardians. I think for Zerg.
Yeah.
Fun times. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so Sticksbender really likes Vorazun. If we were to be more like a player who plays all commanders equally, Sticksbender really loves Vorazun. But if it were up to a player who plays all commanders equally, Vorazun would be that high. I would say Vorazun right around Nova, because Vorazun does pretty much the same things as Nova. Nova can steal her ally. Nova can defend her ally with defensive drones. Nova can tank with defensive drone, and Nova herself, and the whole decoy. Vorazun kind of does the same thing. Yes, she does have the confuse, which will stun, and she can stun the hybrids, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. The reduction in damage is just so massive that I don't think that puts her. If it were up to me, Vorazun would be somewhere here or here. Yeah, somewhere between here or here. Actually, I had Vorazun in B, and I compromised to A tier because Sticksbender really loves Vorazun, and I think Zagar would be maybe B tier, or maybe top of C tier. But that's as far as I would go regarding these two. I definitely think Zeratul is A tier. Yeah, that's where I would put them. But hey, Sticksbender is part of the tier list, so I have to consider his opinion. See you guys next time.